Hey, what is up, everybody? Brett Bartlett here with our monthly Proven Amazon Course webinar. Hey, Ryan and Jenny, do we still got you guys? You guys on?
I'm here. Yes,
I'm
sir.
here.
Cool. Awesome. Hey, tonight we get to talk proven private label. We're going to kind of do a fun back to the future type of setup here. We also have Glenn and Steven behind the scenes making it all work. Hello to everybody. We typically run the same format. I think this is one of the coolest things about purchasing Proven Amazon course is every month we give you kind of, a pulse on what's happening in the Amazon selling world. And today we kind of get a special treat in talking to Ryan and Jenny, who are really the masters of, private label without it being a super huge investment that can just cause a lot of stress. And this, I absolutely love the way that they built out their proven private label process. And so I'm going to be asking them questions. So this is kind of how the setup of the webinar is going to go. I'm going to be asking them questions, the same exact questions I would have asked when I was first starting my online journey. Because I think that's one of the most overwhelming things when I hear private label. It just feels daunting.
Right.
It feels like, if I'm just starting, there is no way I am qualified to do that, right?
Sure.
And I know that's how I would have felt. And so I'm going to kind of run through the cool thing when I start to run through that. We'll kind of go from like, people just getting started online questions to, maybe some more specific examples. And then I want to leave plenty of time for questions. Okay, so everybody who's in attendance right now, here's how it's going to work. Start posting your questions now if you have them, okay? This is going to be mainly a private label webinar, so if you have other things like PPI, stuff like that, if it pertains to private label, we will try to cover it. If not, most likely another webinar, but start posting your questions now. Glenn is actually going to grab those questions and post them into a doc that I will leave plenty of time for to read, okay? So if you have great questions, make sure to post them now. And I'd love to get started. So that's kind of the overview. I'm looking at our attendees. People are trickling in. But Ryan and Jenny, are you guys good? You guys ready to rock and roll and talk to Brett from 5 years ago?
That's right.
Let's do it. Sounds a little scary, but let's go.
And guys,
right.
Brett, we want to mention we're all audio only. There's no slides. We're just doing a conversation back and forth.
Yep. No, that's a good point. Yeah, so you guys aren't missing anything if you just see our PAC monthly webinar screen. Okay, so I think, and I know you guys agree, I think private label, and we'll go into define this more a little bit, but is one of the coolest opportunities for everybody who wants to sell online. Okay, now I believe that now, but 5 years ago, and even further back when I was just starting to think about, building any type of income online, I would have had some very specific questions. The first one would have been that, we live in a day and age where there's so many different opportunities, right? And it's almost hard to filter them. Can you guys, and just so everybody knows, every question I ask, I am literally putting Ryan and Jenny on the spot at the moment. We've had no, prep on it. So I appreciate your guys' flexibility. And so I'll give you guys time to answer each one. But, with so much opportunity and everybody saying, do this, do that, why do you guys seem to talk a lot about private label. Why do you guys think private label is one of the best ways to get going, making an income online?
I think number one, it's scalable. It's to me, retail arbitrage is great, and I think you can have a great business doing that. But at some point, I think retail arbitrage feels like a hustle. Unless you start building a team around you, like you've done, Brett. If you're constantly out doing it on your own, it's a lot of work. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people in this that are listening to this probably are making really good money doing retail arbitrage. But at some point, you're thinking, man, this feels like a job. And so for me, private label feels like more of a business. It's something that that I can do the work once and I can reorder the items. The items are replenishable. So once you find a good product that's selling, all you got to do is just keep it in stock. Barrington talks a lot about those 3 emails where he gets an email from Amazon that it's out of stock. He sends an email to his his supplier saying that he needs more in Amazon, they send it, and he gets an email from Amazon saying you're back in stock. And it's that easy. And you can do that from, I mean, he's in Jamaica, and he just sends emails and takes care of his coffee business. So it's like that. It's just it's scalable, it's sustainable, it feels like a business, and replenishable. I mean, we go into many more reasons in our webinar that when Jenny and I did like 10 days ago, but those are the main ones to me. Jenny, anything else that I missed?
Yeah, well, I think you hit it with it's scalable with your inventory, but it's also, I think if you go back 5 years ago, even for me, Brett, too, when I thought of private label, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to build a whole brand, have a bunch of products under that brand, and have this huge strategy built out and know exactly where I want to be. Maybe have an online store that's not even Amazon. I mean, it just seems like this huge daunting thing. And one of the beauties, I guess, of proven private label is that you don't have to go straight to that point. It's scalable with you can just start with one little product that's generic and slowly grow to that point. It's not what a lot of people tend to think private label is. It doesn't have to be that. There's other strategies that we've talked about a lot in the Facebook group and on different webinars, and I'm happy to talk about some of them here. But so scalable is definitely, I think, the biggest plus for.
Yeah, I love that. I love those answers, and I can give personal testimony to your guys' answer. Number one, I want to really drive this home. When my business that we do 8 figures in is private label products, and it started exactly the way you guys are talking about. It went from and I totally agree with why is this such a great opportunity? Well, it's because you can scale it. We used to do a lot of what I call treasure hunting, right? So you're only as good as your last treasure hunt, right?
Correct.
This is different. This is like a snowball that gets rolling downhill, and it typically gets bigger and bigger and stronger as it's going. So we went from products that one year we sold $5,000 worth, right? To now, I mean, no joke, we're going to do over $10 million from a product that we're just private labeling, right? So that's the power of this. So I love your guys' answer, and I'm not saying that to brag. I am saying that literally because you guys are totally spot on with your answer. It gives the ability to scale, and in my opinion, you see all those things like, hey, sit on the beach while you make money. Now, I don't 100% believe, there's still work involved in this.
Sure, absolutely.
But, it is something where, in my opinion, it's one of the closest you can get to having a sustainable, scalable business that goes to work for you as opposed to you working for it. So I love your guys' answers. They're perfect. Okay, so my next question is, what do you think, and you guys kind of touched on this a little bit, what do you think the kind of like, if you can name a couple or top 3 biggest misconceptions or what most people are scared of with private label, like what are the main reasons people don't get into it? Right? Like if I had to go, like if you had to read my brain from 5 years ago, Brett, I bet you I can read your mind right now. These are the 3 things that are keeping you from getting into private label. What do you think those 3 things are? Because I know you guys have gotten a chance to train a lot of people.
Yeah, the first one I would think would be the upfront cost. Most people think you'd have to spend thousands of dollars and bring in 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000 units, and that you're sourcing from China. In fact, those are 2 right there. The money and sourcing overseas are the 2 biggest ones that are the whole reason why I wrote the book Private Label the Easy Way. And then Jenny and I partnered up to create the mentoring program, and now we partnered with Jim to make it Proven Private Label 2.0. Those are the 2 main ones that are the biggest, and the reason why I did not want to source, that I found out, that's how I found a local wholesale company. But Jenny, what would be one that you would say? Is there any others that are off the top?
I think you hit it, but the only thing I would add is really actually what I had answered before, I guess, that, you think you have to go full out, that you, with a brand and a whole strategy that way, when that can kind of be developed along the way. You can start out that way. With having a big vision of where you want to be, but you don't have to. I love, Brett, what you were saying about just being able to build momentum. And I think that people don't realize how easy it is and can be to start with.
Yeah, probably, the only other thing, because I'm as you guys are talking, it kind of puts me back into like, I literally can put myself, 5 years ago wasn't that long ago.
Right.
And so, the first thing, you guys nailed the first two. It'd be the overseas. I don't know how the heck to, bring something from overseas. What do I have to file? What do I have to have set up? And then, for me, it was like, I don't have the cash. That would have been impossible.
Yep.
Those would have been the first two things. The third for me, it would have been, I can't do any, and we were joking about this before the webinar started. I can't do any graphic design. Like literally, I cannot, like I can barely like import an image, And so I love the way, and I know you guys get into this more in the course and the mentoring program. But you guys really aren't like, man, you got to spend $5,000 on the brand, and the logo. And so for me, that would have been such a relief. I could have been like, cool, I can just, go on to my, Microsoft Word and do a certain font and I'm good.
Yep, absolutely.
And that graphic design would have been a big, for me, mental hurdle, like, hey, I don't think I can move forward on this.
Yep.
Okay, so next question. I know the next one, and we kind of touched on this, and I know it's a spectrum answer, okay? But what do you think? What is the budget someone needs realistically? And I want to hear your guys' answers because I'm interested how it compares to what I have in my head. What do you guys think the budget is for someone to not go all in, but just experiment with the process of private label?
Okay, so I usually tell people $500 just because that's a bigger, and most people think, oh, that's crazy. Either that's too little because they're used to the answers being $3,000 to $5,000, or they think, oh, that's still quite a bit to test. I tell people $500, Brett, but honestly, I mean, really, you can get test with 3 to 5 products, and if the product's $5, what's that, $15 to $25? Right. So honestly, you could get started with under $50 very easily. But I tell people 500 because I don't want them being like, come back and say, hey, it cost me 300 and you said 5. What's the deal? So I started with around 500 because my products cost a little bit more. But again, you could start with a very small test, and under $50 is not unheard of in our group.
Yeah. No, and we actually just sent in something that we're trying out that's using one of the methods that we teach in the group with Christy Michelle, and her method of using promotional companies. And we've got 1,500 units that cost less than $100 for us. And so we're dividing that up into groups of 100. So we have 15. We have enough there to test. So
nice.
Under $100 right there. Yeah,
I
you don't need, it really depends on the product that you're looking for. And so you can, what's your budget, and you can most likely stick to it.
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I completely agree. I have nothing to add except I completely agree with your guys' numbers. That is my favorite thing about your process is it puts it right into Brett of 5 years ago. That's I would have been able to experiment without, completely. Because I mean, prior to that, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody who's on this webinar. I'll tell you my track record prior to, Proven Amazon course. It was fail, 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 fail. And so I didn't necessarily have this huge budget I was working with by that point. And, that's why I love your guys' thing. You can dip your toe in, kind of start to get a feel for everything. Even if it doesn't go perfect, you have the opportunity to learn at that point.
Yep.
And start to build that momentum.
Yep, it's never a failure. It's only a learning experience.
Yes, and that's also what I love about private label is you really do evolve. Meaning, like it is very hard to find an experience, even though if it sucks, it's a bummer.
Right.
That doesn't build off of the other one
Exactly.
because you're kind of building that knowledge base. I love that.
So
I love that. Okay. So here's kind of the exercise. Here's what I want to see. And again, I know you guys have hours and hours of content. You've done hours and hours of webinars. So these are flyby questions, and these are more flyby, answers to it. So, but I think this is a really fair question because I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff. And one thing I feel like podcasts are, and even some webinars are drifting away from is, hey, if I had to, take a very actionable step, right? So let's kind of paint the avatar real fast for this. So I want to speak. I want you guys to speak to one person. Then actually, if you guys give me the opportunity, I want to speak to a different type of avatar. Okay. So right now, the person that I'm talking about is a person who's it's the Brett of 5 years ago. Never sold a product online, let alone I was even more extreme. Okay, I had never even sent a physical product in the mail. Okay, so like this was completely foreign to me. Okay, if you had to give me an actionable step to dip my toe in the water, right, or process, what do you think that process would be? Is that kind of, and I know you guys have hours of content that'll walk like detail by detail on this, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, you know, if someone came, and I know you guys get that question all the time, like what is an actionable step I can take today just to experience the opportunity in some capacity that you guys are talking about?
Let's see. One thing I would tell, and Jenny may have a different answer because there's different action steps you can take, but we're in our group, we still have people that overthink the whole process. And it's so super easy. And so I would probably tell the Brett of 5 years ago, I'd ask you what you're interested in. And I know you'd probably say surfing. So I'd be like, okay, so let's think about what I would want to get you to the testing phase as quickly as possible, and which comes over and which messes with PPI, which, you know, get running the ads. So I want to get you to that testing phase as soon as I possibly can, and it doesn't have to be the perfect product. So I'd say, Brett, what are you interested in? What do you have knowledge about? Let's just start there. Let's pick something. And so you'd say, well, maybe surfing wax, like you say in the PPI course. Okay, let's source it. Let's go to Walmart and grab one, or let's find a wholesale company that we can get it from very cheap. Let's grab it. Let's throw up a skeleton listing and send it in and see what happens. Let's literally, it can be that quick. Jenny, what would you say to that?
I think you nailed it. I mean, with someone who doesn't have any knowledge or anything, that I think I would want to walk them through a little bit of, I mean, if you were already bought into the idea that this is what you wanted to pursue, then I would, you know, kind of pick your brain, brainstorm a little bit and talk about, you know, where can we get you started? And I mean, talking with you, Brett, you know, maybe going to interests, but if you end up being a data person and wanting more data, then maybe going, hey, let's just go look on Amazon and see what, you know, what's there, and start using the Amazon search bar to look for some leads on products. But I totally agree, Ryan, getting them to the testing phase as soon as possible. And honestly, like we see people, we have hundreds of people in the mentoring program, and I would say one of the #1 issues that they have is pulling that trigger to move forward into that testing phase. And so maybe trying to downplay that a little bit so that they can get to that downplay the product selection piece a little bit so they can get to the testing phase faster. Because once you get through one whole process of getting a product and you've learned so much, you know, there's no, you've already crossed over all of these hurdles that those aren't there the second time around. So if the first time can just look like training, let's just get you through the process so you can understand what's going on here, and then dig in and kind of dig into some deeper layers. That's probably
I love that. I think those are great. Yeah, and let me sum that up a little bit. Basically, and I totally agree with your answer, because it's the same thing with when we launched PPI, it was the same type of constraint, which is getting someone to go from zero to a product live and listed on Amazon. Even if that product doesn't sell one unit, right? In that process, you have accomplished so much. And it's such a huge breakthrough, because all those fears that can, you know, keep you from moving forward, you realize like, hey, that wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was, right? And I know that, look, I literally remember things like even how to tape a box, right? Like how to put a packaging label on it. Like those were all things that like seemed daunting at first. And when you think of private label, because I do think people have brought a very, it just seems overwhelming when someone says private label, even currently for me. And I do private label. And when I hear it, I totally agree with you guys. I think the most important thing you can do is get someone from zero to a product live listed on Amazon and go, hey, look, that's not the end of the story, but you did it, you know? And that's where I'd say if you can get 98% of the way there, that's it. And the 2% is just starting to tweak it and figure out your process a little bit more. So I love your guys' answers on that. I think that's beautiful. One thing, oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Jenny.
I was just gonna say, you're talking about someone going from nothing, from zero, and I gotta tell you, my background, well, I started years and years ago on Amazon with books before FBA, but then I went to eBay, did that for a while, and then when FBA came around, it was a huge jump for me mentally to, I was so scared of that process, and I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why, but it was like, it took so much courage for me to just do one little step and getting the listing up, and I was just doing retail arbitrage. So even though I had that background, it's still that shift to FBA, and I've seen it with a lot of other people who have an eBay background, and I'm like, man, if you can do eBay, you can totally do FBA. You can totally do Amazon. So, but still, there's so many hurdles that hold us back, and so just getting through those, no matter where you're starting, if it's from zero or if you have some background even, sometimes there's still those hurdles to try to get over.
Yep, I totally agree. Now, I do want to focus for a little bit on this avatar, and you guys feel free to fill in any gaps that I miss here, okay? But let's talk about the person now, kind of like that you're talking about, Jenny, that has had online experience, and specifically in selling physical products, following the Proven Amazon course. So if you followed the Proven Amazon course, most likely you've done retail arbitrage, some online arbitrage, and then some wholesale. And all that essentially is buying from one place and selling it more on Amazon, right?
Right.
Now, I used to think all of that was magic. It was just magic how, a Fisher Price toy would sell, 500 units a day or whatever the number was. So here's my challenge to this avatar, the person who's been selling for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and is looking for, the next evolution of their business. And we believe what we're talking about right now is through private label, or private label is one of those options. I challenge any person who has sold online, okay, specifically on Amazon, what I want every person to do, and if you haven't done it, I've talked about it in other webinars, okay, and I was actually just on a call with someone today and challenging them on the same thing, okay, go to your business reports and then go to your detail page sales, okay, because let's say you've sold 1,000 different things over, the course of 2 years, right, all these different SKUs, okay, each one of those things is gonna have data on them. This is where I'm gonna go PPI meets proven private label, okay? Because each one of those things tells a different story. And I'll give you let's talk about a very specific example right now, okay? If I were to challenge every person who's sold for a couple of years to go to their business reports and look up detail page sales and look up their sessions. I don't care about sales right now. I care about their sessions, okay? And you see an item that gets, let's just give an example. Let's say it's a Disney Fisher Price pink princess pony, right? And it gets 5. And the reason I'm saying that is I have
always the pink stuff.
Yeah, that's like my life. I have 2 little girls. I don't even know other toys now. Like I see boys' toys and I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool. And so Disney Fisher Price pink princess pony, right? And you're gonna go, hey, the reason that's selling so well is because it's Fisher Price, right? But the reality is that's not 100% true. And this is the thing I want to pound home when we talk about private label. And this is the epiphany that I needed, okay, to move forward with. Because I had been doing retail arbitrage, wholesale, and liquidation and online arbitrage for I don't even know, 2 or 3 years before I did any type of private label. And because I thought it was magic how those things got selling. But then I realized this: all products start at 0 on Amazon. Now, granted, they have brand name recognition and then probably some form of alternative marketing outside of Amazon, right? Like Fisher Price. But it still starts at 0. Meaning when that thing got listed on Amazon, it started at 0, right? And if you actually picture that more like an engine that you can take apart, what I want to tell all these experienced sellers on the webinar right now is if that thing got 500 people a day to see it, which you'll see in your sessions report, okay, that means that, yes, 500 people came, but they didn't all see it because they were looking for Fisher Price. Okay, some of them saw it because they looked up pink pony princess, right? Does that make sense? Like
Right.
that's where you start to realize the power of private label, because there's nothing stopping you from making a, Ryan's pink pony princess, right? Like that's the whole point, is like you can really, there's this story for all experienced sellers in there, all this data that you have over years or a year or however long it is, it tells a story. And I really encourage you guys, and I've talked about it extensively in back webinars, but I want to pound it home, especially on this private label webinar. There is probably a private label product hidden inside that data that you wouldn't believe how transformational it will be when you open it up. You just gotta change the filters a little bit. Is there anything you guys would add to that?
I would also say that they are kind of in the same place too, because we have, most of the folks in our group have sold on Amazon before. They may not have been around for 4 or 5 years, but you still have to get started, and there's still that pulling the trigger. So they're coming at it from a different place for sure, and there's less fear about a shipment and all that kind of stuff, but you still have to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to send this in, and this is my private label. So, some of it's some of the same advice for either avatar.
I think this is huge though, Brett, because there's a few people I've talked to, they're doing millions and they're doing all retail arbitrage. They are hustling like crazy. And they're coming to me and they're saying, I don't know how to shift to private label. I know I need to, but I can't stop the hustle. I don't know what to do. But this gives them a little bit of a head start, I guess, and they can look back and see that all this work that they've done hasn't been for nothing. They can take, I love that it's written a story. And so go back and look at that data and see how that can help you move into private label smoothly. And you already might even have a source for some of the products. I mean, if it's not a Fisher Price item, if it's something that maybe you have things that are generic, non-brand driven, things that we've talked about that tend to work well for private label products, you might already have a source for that.
Well, I think too, and you guys can push back on this if you don't agree, but I think we're living in a day and age now too, where people are wanting a unique item. So like we're talking about Fisher Price and the brand recognition that comes with it. But we're seeing over and over again right now, parents and families and people are excited to support something new, right? And so I think there's even, using the pink pony princess as an example, of course, everybody knows they can get a Fisher Price one, right? But we know that people are looking for that on Amazon. Why not make a little bit more unique one, right? And now that's yours and people are excited to get it. And again, to go off your guys' very first point, once that thing gets going, your focus becomes reordering, not, oh, I got to go find my next treasure. So I really, really encourage anybody who has sold for, more than 6 months, or actually here's usually the standard, anybody who's gone through one Christmas season. Okay, please, please, please spend 1 hour, just 1 hour, okay, export that report and just start to dissect, wow, why in the heck during Christmas did this item get 10,000 sessions, right? And that's the question. Why? Why did this one do it? And then from there you can start to realize, like, it's not magic. Some of it's brand recognition, but some of it's not. And I think that's one of the fun things to start to explore.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, so we're at 4:30. You've pretty much answered the majority of the Brett questions. I'm reading through the questions that are stacking up. And so there's a couple that I'm going to start with that I feel like, so, one of the challenges always in a webinar like this is you have a mixed crowd. You'll have people who are just getting started, right? And then, like you said, you'll have people who are doing millions of dollars in alternative forms of revenue, right? And so what I want to do is try to balance both. And again, I want to encourage anybody, if you have questions, make sure to post them, because I can actually see them and I'm reading through them while Ryan and Jenny are talking, so I can pick out, which one's which. So we probably should have started with this. What exactly is private label? Like, if you guys had to give a definition, how would you guys define private label?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I usually just say it's having your own brand of an item, and the way really quickly, the way I usually describe that is I say imagine going to Walmart, going down the aisle where the canned vegetables are, and you see green beans, and you see them in a can with Green Giant, and right next to Green Giant is the Great Value brand, which is Walmart's brand, and I say that Walmart doesn't have their own green bean farms and their own green bean packing plants and all that. They go to a company like Green Giant and say, hey, we want to buy X amount of cans, but instead of your label on it, put our label around it. That's exactly what it is. And you can do the exact same thing, but you don't have to order 5,000 units. You can order 5. And so that's how just having your own brand of an item, essentially.
Yep.
Love it. Anything you would add to that, Jenny?
Nope.
You guys must work together a lot, man.
That one's an easy one.
That's when you know it's in sync. Hey, I don't want to go off the topic real quick, but someone just followed up on what's the report name that I was talking about. You go to your business reports, and then you go to your detail page sales. So business reports, detail page sales. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. All right. Okay, so let me kind of scan through these questions right here. I'm going to go from broader to more specific.
Okay.
Okay, there's a couple similar to this. Is private label for the newbie, or should I start with retail arbitrage? And just because I did a poor job of being a good host to this, I wanted to define what retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and wholesale are just real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, retail arbitrage is where you walk into something like Target, buy a pink princess pony for $10, Fisher Price pink princess pony for $10, and then you sell it on Amazon for $30, and you make the money in between. Okay, that's retail arbitrage. Online arbitrage is the same thing, except you're buying the items online, and essentially wholesale is the same thing as well. You're buying it from a wholesaler and then taking the margin in between, selling it online. Now, do you think a newbie, and I'm actually very interested to hear your guys' answer to this, do you think a newbie should start with private label or start with retail arbitrage? Or some form of arbitrage, I guess, is a better way to explain it.
And everybody might have a different answer if you talk to the experts in our group. So typically in my book, I think I said it's nice to have a background of Amazon. It's nice to have sent in a shipment and understand how Amazon works. But with how easy our process is, we've been telling people that, okay, now you may be behind, you may not understand all the lingo when we talk about FBA or FN SKU or all that kind of stuff, UPC, you might be behind a little bit because you haven't gone through a shipment yet or done, some of the foundational things for selling on Amazon. But you can absolutely get started as a newbie and go right into private label with my method, I believe. And you can do it from China too if you want, but man, the learning curve for that is even crazier.
Yeah,
so,
no.
What do you say, Jen?
I agree, and I think, and we've had, a few people come into our mentoring program who have absolutely no background, and they just want to jump in, and you have a little bit more of a learning curve. And as far as what we teach in the mentoring program, we don't deal with the course doesn't specifically talk about selling on Amazon and the lingo for, we kind of make that assumption that you have that knowledge, but we're certainly willing, we help people along the way. So the learning curve is a little bit more, but I think it's a great way to start. I think retail arbitrage is a great way to start too. So to get your feet wet. So should they start with private label? I think ultimately private label is better in the long run because you get more control and it's scalable like we talked about. So why not start there? But you can certainly take a smaller step and start with retail arbitrage first and then move into private label.
Yeah, I don't know how I would answer that. I was kind of thinking, I was hoping just to cheat off your guys' answer. It is one of those things where like I had to reprogram my brain to do private label. But I'm thankful for feeling comfortable in selling physical products online because of my, going into it. I think if someone made me vote one way, right? Because I really don't think that, I think you'd be fine doing all the above that you guys just said. I think if someone made me vote one way and said, but you can only vote for one, I do think I would start with proven private label right? Because what it'll do is it will set the right brain or the right process and learning curve for testing and validating a product.
Yep.
Like that. Because that was the hardest thing for me to relearn after coming from like a treasure hunting mindset. And so, I mean, my answer is subject to change next week, but I was just kind of thinking through your guys' answers. Like I said, I don't think you can go wrong either way, but I have noticed with experienced sellers, one of the hardest things to do is put them into, hey, this is experiment mode. And they're like, yeah, but I want to make money now, right? Because that's like what we're used to. And it's like, no. You'll make a lot of money later on, but you got to experiment right now. That was like, that was a hard process for me. So yeah, anyways.
And the things that we looked at, you know, when you're learning retail arbitrage, the things that you're looking at to determine whether it's something you want to invest in are different than, you know, what with the PPI and all of that. So yeah, I mean, initially when I was doing more retail arbitrage, it was, you know, we were looking at the rank and the selling price, really, you know, maybe some Keepa data, I don't know. And so we're finding, you know, people are still looking at those things, and it is a mind shift. So I totally agree with you. I think, and I don't think that answer is going to change tomorrow.
Okay, so my next question, and I promised that I wasn't going to get like super deep into this, but I think this is a good one more from the roadblocks that people get. So I'd like you guys to answer it in this way, like more like, don't let that slow you down type of answer, not like you guys have to get into the specifics of this. But does private labeling, do you have to know trademark laws, everything like that to start private labeling?
Absolutely, you do. Yes, absolutely. No, no, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what any of that was when I got started, and so just jump in. I even like creating a business and talking to somebody a couple of days ago at a meetup I did. They were asking about, do you have to do an LLC? And like, no, man, just start selling. Just get started.
Right.
Think about that stuff later. So with trademarks, that's way down the road. You want to figure out if your product's even profitable first, whether it's even a winner. If it is, then you can think about, oh, is it even time to do that?
Right. It's the same thing with logo and, you know, all of that fancy packaging and stuff. I mean, and Brett, we talked about this a little bit in LA that, you know, why would you invest? Why invest in any of that on something you haven't proven yet? To prove it first, and then look into whether or not you need to, you know, you're going to move towards trademarking and getting a fancy logo and all of that.
Yep. And you know, it's funny. We ended up, as much as I make fun of, you know, graphic design and my inabilities and stuff, we actually very much evolved into that, but only for our products that were super proven. You know.
Right. Does it make sense?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, these are the things that are keeping the lights on. Let's perfect them, as opposed to, like you guys are saying, all the different, I mean, it is it's infinite, all the different improvements you can make to, you know, different products you have. The best thing you can do is get through the door. So I love your guys' answer on that. Here's a question that I'm going to try to rephrase a little bit. Okay, so they bought 500 private label units that are just not selling at Amazon, right? And it's a bummer. Look, I wish my biggest mistake was 500 units. Unfortunately, it's way more. So the question really is, and I want to hear you guys' answer on this. What do you think and you guys don't have to give specific detailed information, but like, what do you think the best way to, what recommendation would you give them for not making that mistake again in the future?
Oh, to not make it again. I thought you were going to say to move it. Let's see.
Look, for me, for me, I don't even like to step into that. How do you move the items? The question really is, because I mean, sometimes it's like there's so many different variables on that.
Sure. Right.
But the question really is, what would you guys recommend to not make that mistake in the future?
Yeah, it's just what you teach, Brett, with PPI. You start small, you test it. We're not ordering you don't order 500 units again. If you have another opportunity that looks like like you should order 500 or 1,000, resist that temptation. Order 10, 12, 20, 30, whatever the number. Order's really small amounts. I mean, we get a question all the time, how many should I order? And so I think the last webinar we did in our webinar training series for our group, we said 5 to 20 or 5 to 25, just because 5 is a really low number. I wouldn't want to go lower than that because, you know, you need to have enough to test. But then, you know, I don't want to say way more than 20 because, you know, then it gets to be expensive. So somewhere in between there, but just resist the temptation to order a bunch. You never ever have to.
Right. Yep.
I like that. Cool. Anything you want to add to that, Jenny?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Perfect.
Well, you know what? I will add something because we did in the other webinar, we were talking about this 5 to 20. I mean, that's a huge range. And the way that you determine that is really you're going to look at your budget and momentum. Those are the two things that you want that are going to affect how much of a quantity you're going to start with. So, you know, what's your budget? Stick to that. And how much do you need to be able to build momentum if it's a winner? What's the minimum there? And figure out, well, you know, then how many items. But there's no reason that you should have to purchase 500 units for a private label, especially to test. That's the beauty of proven private label.
Totally agree. Okay, so I remember, Jenny, Ryan, you weren't at our last conference, but Jenny and Christy answered this one. I'm interested to hear your guys' answers right now. Are you always getting the manufacturer permission when private labeling products? Meaning, and I want to paint a visual real fast. Imagine you just bought a dog shampoo, right? And when we talk about private labeling a dog shampoo, it'd be like, let's say it says Ryan's world famous dog shampoo, okay? But Jenny wants to sell that same shampoo, so she wants to be able to take off the label, right, and put Jenny's, you know, famous dog shampoo, okay? That is the process of this question, to kind of put a visual on it. That is what they're talking about. So do you always get the permission to, you know, relabel or private label from the manufacturer?
Yeah, so we're mainly talking about going to wholesale companies to start off with. And so with wholesale companies, absolutely, you ask for permission to take the product out of its packaging and put it into your own. If you're going to the manufacturer, then you kind of that's already kind of included in it, that you are having them manufacture it for you. Now, the same manufacturer may make Jenny's shampoo, but they know that you don't want Jenny's label on Ryan's product, that you want it to be mine, that I would want it to be my own. So with the manufacturer, not necessarily asking permission, that just automatically happens. But with the wholesale company, absolutely ask permission.
And you'll get it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to even take it one step further, because all I'm trying to do is help people work through the constraints. Even if, like, even Bretta 5 years ago, like, man, I'm scared to talk to a wholesaler because I don't even know really what I'm supposed to have to talk to one, right? If you really are considering this, and this is why I talked about all products start at zero, okay? You can literally, if you want to sell dog shampoo and you think that that's going to be a winner, okay, you can walk into a Walmart or order it online if you live on a remote island, whatever, okay? And you are going to order a product that does not currently exist on Amazon. There are tons, okay? Because not every product is on Amazon. So I'm going to walk into a store. I'm going to find we call them off brands, or, you know, not known brands. I'm going to grab it, okay? And I'm literally going to list it as it is, okay? And see if it sells. And one of the coolest things about that is that's the same exact process as listing your own private label product on Amazon. Meaning, if you can get that other person's to sell, guess what? It will not be different when it's called Ryan's world famous dog shampoo. Okay. And so just to kind of work through, like, you guys, if this is something you really want to pursue, there is really no excuse to not giving it a go, to test dipping that toe in, you know, in the shallow end, and going, okay, I can get through this process.
Cool.
Yeah,
and now's the time to do it too, because Q4 is like maybe 13 weeks away, and so there is plenty of time to have a private label product or 2 or 3 or 4 by then.
Yep, I totally agree. Let's see. Let's see. This one is there anything, you guys kind of answered this already. You talked about interests, but is there anything with someone who's completely starting, is there anything that you have them focus on specifically when trying to identify a potential product to sell? And I know you guys have course material to go over on all this, but is there like one or two specific things that you kind of, I like the interest one, so that's a fair answer if you're like, hey, it's still interest, because that's what I do when people ask me. I say, what are you interested in, or what do you have knowledge in?
Sure. Well, that's part of the, so Jenny did this awesome infographic, and I think she passed it out there to your place at in May. But it breaks it down into choosing a product, either the product-driven route or the customer/data-driven route. And the product-driven route means you're focusing on a product, and under that is like your interests. What do you have knowledge of? What are you already selling well on Amazon right now? That's that path. On the data-driven, customer-driven path is like going to tools like Keyword Inspector, using the Amazon search bar, starting with saying, I have no interest or anything, or maybe I do have interest, but I just want to attack it from this angle. I love the data side of things. Let's see what people are searching for. Let's find the keywords that are popular, and then let's match up a product to that keyword. So those are the two ways that we go about it in the mentoring group. It's all, and we tell them, Brett, that there's not a right or wrong. It's just get to the testing phase as quick as you possibly can, whether that's the data-driven route, using keywords, or just pick something that you're interested in and just get it launched.
And
and I totally agree with that. Anything you want to add, Jenny?
Well, I was just thinking, going back to what you had said too about looking at your reports if you've already been selling, and maybe there's something that stands out there, and
I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that a lot. Well, we're coming up on kind of the last stretch of this, and it's funny, there's questions that are basically asking now, like, how do I know more? And we've talked about this, you guys have hours and hours and hours and hours of training, right? What I kind of want to give my own personal testimony before I go into this. I wish so bad, I can't even tell you how bad I wish, that I would have known that this type of process exists, that you didn't have to risk substantial amounts of money, right?
Man. Yeah.
And PPI and Proven Private Label were both birthed out of
at the same time.
Pain. Yeah, pain of doing things the wrong way.
I know.
So, really,
I'm sorry, I wrote the book too late. I'm sorry, my fault.
Really, when if I was on the other side listening to this, I want you to know my personal testimony of, guys, this is helping you guys not go through the same learning curves that we went through. And so, I really do believe so much in the testing phase now. It is ingrained in my soul, okay? It is like, there is no reason in this day and age to where you have to risk beyond your means, right? And so let's kind of dive in a little bit. I know for everybody on the webinar right now, we are extending your Proven Private Label program, right? And Stephen actually posted in the chat the Proven Private Label link. So it's provenprivatelabel.com/pack page. But you can actually see it in the chat, and that is extending till June 28th at noon. I'm gonna ask some questions. Well, let's do the first question. What does that entail? Like, what comes into that, Ryan and Jenny? Like, what's the process? And then I'll ask a few more questions that are specific. People are actually asking questions that pertain to that, so I want to make sure we cover them.
Yeah, so we took my book, Jenny and I took the book that I wrote and put it into lessons. There's 6 modules, but 20 lessons, and broken down with assignments. And so that's the foundation of it. And then we've gone even further, and we've got this webinar training series where we go through the lessons live on webinars, and we're close to being finished with that, but all the recordings are in there. We're constantly adding new content. We're always doing new webinars, always adding new posts, coming out with new ideas. But it's in the form of a Facebook group where the mentoring is, where you can ask any question, and it's It's specifically private label. So
Right.
that's
It's
the
very
only
focused.
question that it's, yeah, exactly, very focused on private label. It doesn't mean you can't ask a question about other forms of Amazon. That's fine, we'll answer them. But very specifically to private label, ask any question you want. Me and Jenny are in there, Skip McGrath, Jason Tate, Joy Packard, Abe Ortolani, Christy Michelle, and others are in there answering questions every single day. It's just an awesome group. It's very, very thriving. And so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Anything you want to add to that, Jenny?
No, one of the things, well, I say no and then I go and add stuff.
Okay,
right, so
you got good stuff.
The Proven Private Label Mentoring Program has the lessons in a PDF format that have assignments, and we encourage you to do the assignments and then post your answers in the group so that we can provide accountability. That's kind of the point of the mentoring program. Yep. So then there's the Facebook community where you would, put your assignments and ask questions. And then we are also always, we're doing kind of more challenges right now where we'll be asking, what is your goals for the week, and then check in Thursday, what have you accomplished this week? So we really try to be proactive and not reactive in that group as much, and try to walk you through so that you are constantly moving, so that you actually see progress in a timely manner. And it's not one of those, it's not a shiny object to buy online and go put on your virtual shelf somewhere. We really want you guys to take action, and we do everything we can to help you do that in the mentoring group. And we are just constantly doing free webinars for more training. We just had one last week. It was so much fun, where we just dug in for 30 minutes. We just dug in and went down we call it rabbit trail webinar. And we just went in and we found 5 new potential private label products in a half hour. And we just did that live with everybody. So we're doing that kind of stuff all the time. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great community.
That is so cool. Look, if I had to kind of sum that up on what comes with the Proven Private Label, 2.0, is you not only get the technical side of it, but you get the support around it, right?
Absolutely.
And that is so important when you're kind of going through what feels like, bumper cars on this process, to have people go like, oh yeah, that's normal. Like that was one of the biggest things that I needed, like, yeah, that's a normal problem. I didn't know if it was like the world's ending problem or a little problem. You know what I mean? Like I had no gauge. And so that's one thing I love about this whole program you guys have built out, is it kind of gives that support along with the technical side. Well, guys, that's, again, this is extended out till Wednesday. It's, we kind of just did that because of this webinar. I really do think Ryan and Jenny go above and beyond in it. I mean, it is a major over delivering of information, and they really, really take pride in what they do. And again, I wish I would have had that. I wish so bad I would have had it, because it would have helped me understand that this stuff's not daunting, and it would have saved me a ton of learning experience. Is there anything else you guys want to add to the end of this? Otherwise, we're going to kind of call it a day, and I will talk to everybody again on the next PAC monthly webinar.
I would just say, just get started. I mean, whether you get into our program or not, if private label's the goal that you have, just get to the testing phase. Like what Brett said, just go out and find a product that you can just get launched. You go through the product, you go through the process, you're gonna learn so much in doing so.
Awesome. Jenny?
Yeah, here we go. I absolutely agree. You move forward on something. If this private label, we think that's the way to go because of the control and the scalability. It's so easy. And, we're here to walk with you. We'd love to have you be a part of our group, but really just use the resources that Jim provides for you, and move forward, keep moving. You'll get there.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know this was last minute, so I always enjoy being able to talk with you guys. And then for everybody listening, for taking the time, we will talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.
Well, thanks, Brett.